Definitely, it's a vast uh, it's a vast subject. The portion of Mishpatim, and we are willing, even willing or ready to touch upon it very lightly. But I would like to open for you the scope that it relates to. Um, First, we need to perceive that the portion of Mishpatim is actually uh, um, a side or a completion of the portion of Yitro, meaning it's completion of giving Torah. Giving Torah has in it um, the demand of what the Creator wish or is bestowing upon the people who are ready to come into contract with Him. So they are getting, one can say, uh, the structure, one can say the ecology, the inner ecology and outer ecology, in which they can maintain connection with the higher and serve the purpose of creation with Him. But the other side of giving Torah is giving the side of how the Creator is preparing or expressing His concern, His care, His watch over all spirits. So it seems that people usually understand the portion of Mishpatim as laws of how to treat slaves or how to treat each other, but basically it has nothing to do with it. So the Zohar and definitely Rabbi Shimon starts with such a clear declaration that the way that we read Parashat Mishpatim without being on the way or doing the work is basically not recognizing even one letter or the meaning of one letter that is written there. So it is more to do not with how we will hold ourselves to the contract, but it speaks more about how the Creator is taking care that even if we will fall from from our promise or from fulfilling our part in the contract, there will be aid and more chances than one, and a whole system of check and balances of the journey of this precious precious presence that is called spirit. So it is clear that we're not speaking about a corporal world. So we need to first to perceive. It starts with you can say with a fate of a slave, and the whole definition of a slave is the definition of the state of a spirit in corporal life. For in all its rounds, one can say in all the cycles of its being, in the cycle of 6,000 years of reformation, in the cycle of 6 days and Shabbat, in the cycle of 6 years and Shemitah, and seven years double seven, which brings us to Yovel. Okay, so the whole the whole cycles, which are described in this portion, speaks about the condition of the spirit, its trials, its judgment, its the help that she can get from time, meaning from the possibility of the presence or the descent of a different order of powers, like Shabbat, like holidays, like meeting point with others of higher degree of perception of the journey of the spirit. So basically what we meet is a spirit that is called Saba the Mishpatim, or Saba Yeba, grandfather Yeba, okay, that is leading actually after conversing with Rabbi Shimon, is leading two members of, let's say, the members of a Zohar, of the group of the Zohar. And inside that, it's really a subject to study in depth for at least a couple of years, but let's start with at least a year. But at least to get the outline of something which is so paramount in our life, but we know so little about it in our existence. So there are many phases into the journey that Saba Yeba, or Saba the Mishpatim, is taking, and this is basically most of the portion of the ways the Zohar is dealing with this. But let's hear the start of it. So I will correct the translation, because it's really it's not only not an accurate translation, it's a misleading translation, because there is very important distinction between spirit, ghost, which is ruach, and soul. They're totally different stages of perception, conception, and ability to actually be in contact with the creator. So it's very, very important, definitely in this portion, to know the difference. So let's first set up the stage, okay? And the setup of the stage starts with a citation of the first verse of the portion of Mishpatim. Okay. Okay. So if you can open it, I'll try to translate both Torah and Zohar at the same time. Okay. So it starts with a word "and." Yeah. And these are, it means when it starts "and," it's adding. So it's the other side of giving Torah. And giving Torah was in the portion of Yitro ended with the instruction to build an altar, or it's one can say sort of an allusion to what we will be able to build as an anchor for the presence of the higher in our realms or in our world. So it's a beginning of the reformation of the ability of the creator and the createe to live together in the created space. Okay. So it will make the space a place. So then it adds how the creator took care that we will be able to fulfill our contract, that the spirit will be able to be partners and to understand and to fulfill the task that they were created for. Okay. So the means or the aid for the spirit to fulfill their mission is Torah. So it, one can say that it gives a different perspective to giving Torah. Giving Torah is not just an edict or a law, commandment. It actually gets from that standpoint, it gets a different sense of help, of grace. So for the sentence, and these are the judgments which you shall set before them. Okay. Before whom? Before those who were present, meaning all generation and all spirits, whether they were in the carnal bodies or not, meaning all generations were witnessing to giving of Torah. So to them, in front of them, you will perceive now everything that is the real part, meaning the need. how the spirit will discover the true need of her definition to fulfill her part, meaning at any time she's standing trial, and this is taking you back to one of the definitions of a prayer, is to be willing to stand trial with our spirit in order to be able to fulfill the mission of reformation of the worlds and all spirits. And therefore, we can understand that there is a special need which is not inside the nature of creation or the nature of the corporal life. So this is a permission from these judgment or these trials, stems the permission to ask for help, or at least to ask for help, to recognize the help that is being given from above for that particular mission, which is reformation. Yeah. Not to exist, to live, to reform. So this is just grasping the essence of how can we approach the reading. So Rabbi Shimon opened with a word. So when we speak about Rabbi Shimon opening and not calling us to come and see, it means that it's a new untouched, pristine perception that we need to acquire through listening, the ability to hear it. Again, Rabbi Shimon is opened with a word. These are the judgment which you shall set before them. Before them, it means that they will be able to see And in Hebrew, it says, in the face of them. So they will understand that there is a rear side. Okay. Also, he's saying in the Aramaic translation, it speaks of judgment. Yeah. So he's saying the translation suggested of the rear. Usually we translate, okay, the Hebrew to Aramaic. Now we translate the Aramaic because this is how Rabbi Shimon starts. So it always speaks about the rear part. Translation always suggests the need to understand. The need to understand something that is being said in a language that I do not understand. Clear? So this is why he's saying Tirgum, meaning in translation. It speaks about these are the judgments or the trials concerning transmigration. This is the word that should be transmigration, namely the judgment of the spirits that transmigrate again in this world to be sentenced or trial, each according to its punishable acts. Well, it say we need to understand what is punish. Okay, what is punishment for a spirit, or for a perception that recognizes the presence of her maker, the presence of her master, the presence of her creator. Punishment for her is not being able to fulfill the contract between them, and feeling that her journey did not achieve the intimacy and proximity to the creator will, and therefore for her it's punishment. Okay. We consider punishment something that is separating us from the pleasure that we wish to attain for ourselves. It's very different for the spirit. For her, punishment is not being able to fulfill the need and the will of the creator to extend its presence. So first, this is the template, and inside it there is a matrix of how it flows. Okay. So the edict of Titikne Eved Ivri, meaning if you will buy a Hebrew servant, meaning someone who is enslaved or is enslaved into the corporal life, but has the identity of what it means of a Hebrew, which means Ivri, which means the one that is relating to the patriarchs as his conviction and the heritage of the mission, and as well it encapsulates the possibility to go to cross the river, meaning to cross the river of culture, or to cross the river. Culture is nature, opposite of what we think, to cross the nature of concealment of Havaya inside the practicality of the dresses and concealment of the corporal world. Okay, so this is how it starts. If you buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free, meaning 6,000 years of, or 6 days, as we 6 times, as it is to do with the measurement of a formation, which when they are filled with light are called sphirot. It is promised to everyone who took upon, every spirit who took upon herself this service of a dominion of priest to serve, that it will go free on the 7th year. Okay. Rabbi Shimon said to them, friends, the time has come to reveal some hidden mysteries concerning transmigration. If you buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve. Namely, the spirit is required to transmigrate, meaning to descend from its place of birth, from the ecology of her stature, one can say. The spirit is required to transmigrate, either because of sin, meaning not fulfilling yet the purpose and mission that she contracted herself to fulfill, or because it had not, as it said, completely fulfilled during its lifetime the Torah and its precepts. Meaning, as Torah, as an illumination that could reveal or could actually help the spirit to fulfill its perfection. Okay. What happens for her, if we speak about what the spirit will consider punishment, it is forced to come back to the world and don a body that is to be born again and finish what was imposed on it for the 70 years of life in this world. If it is of the aspect of the angel Metatron, which is in the world of Bria, which comprise 6 levels of reformation, of measurement of reformation, which are called Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. It is written, 6 years he shall serve. It is required, and then it is required to transmigrate into a different body, only until it finishes concerning all those 6 levels or measurements, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, of the same place whence it was taken, namely Metatron. What it suggests is that each spirit has its origin, state, or stature, and according to the place of its arising and descending to transmigrate or to stay with a certain will, which is a certain body, an existence, the place of its arising set the goals of her mission. to which level she need to fulfill. It's always 6, but one can say with a different power. So she need to empower and to come back, fulfilling her journey according, one can say, to the headquarter which gave her the orders. Okay. So to look again into the concern of the creator and the kind of discourse that is happening between them. So I would like to suggest 2 things. First, that the whole discourse of Saba de Mishpatim, which is the Zohar of this portion, is a conversation leading the two participants from the group of the Zohar. Okay. After finishing the conversation with, or the revelation of what we are in with Rabbi Shimon, it seems that there is a need for that spirit of the Saba to reveal, not through Rabbi Shimon, but through other members of the Zohar, to reveal the truly important message within the ability to discover and to unite with the spirit that is descending specifically to us. Okay, so it's actually start as really as a sort of misunderstanding and thinking that someone is dressing up or as a fool, or I do not understand, because it starts with sort of quiz. The meeting point first is at night, and if you will look at verse 14 of the Zohar, of Zohar Mishpatim, the meeting point happens between them at night, meaning it happens as it happens with us, as this portion is meeting us, at a state of actually not understanding anything about spirits. Definitely not about our spirit, and not about the laws, the trials, the sentiment that the spirit carries. So it starts in exile. Night is always in exile, and this portion is the part of the night of what will become one day with the receiving of Torah. So we have, one can say, the 3 participants: souls, Torah, and spirit, which represent the care and the attitude and the sentiment of the creator towards the spirit. So the meeting point is in a tower that is called Tzor, which means that it's concealed. It has steps, and there is a seeking. Yeah, it means it's different in a landscape of a certain level. Always the tower is something that has to do with growth of the spirit. Okay? And it has to do with Tzor, or Tzur, which is to do with the rock, which is an illusion, a very fine illusion, to to the source of all spirit, which is Bina. Okay. But there are only guests there, meaning that they did not achieve yet a stature and or a statue of inhabitants, a permanent settlers. So they are guests. So it's a couple which speaks about Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yossi. It speaks about the one who stayed to fulfill and reform, and the one who completed during the time of the existence of the group of the Zohar, completed the mission of his spirit, Rabbi Yossi. Okay, so Rabbi Chia, just to set, now we're setting. So the beginning is the opening. I mean, if Rabbi Shimon opened, he opened the possibility of an entry of a higher revelation, which is Saba de Mishpatim or Saba Yeba, which has a very, very particular character. First, he doesn't take himself seriously as so seriously. It has the sense of play. He's playful, is crying, is laughing at himself. But the sense of play is very important when we speak about the template, because the template of creation is the rule of the game, the rule of achieving revelation and the dress of all the powers in order to try and to put you in trial. So you will be able to win the disclosure of what is standing behind that. Okay, so it's very important, and it connects to Purim and to the finalizing or coming into the final stages of tikkun, of reformation. What we will reveal is that many powers dress themselves as attackers, as robbers, as tempters, as fools, and they were all messengers of the Creator. So they meet at that point, as though something brings them to that stage, the conversation, the revelation. So it suggests that we need to consider very seriously what brings us to the study every time, because it dresses itself as our power or our decision. The decision is made only when we come here. The true decision is to surrender to the recognition that something else brought us in order to choose whether to enter or not. Okay, so this is as well. And what is paramount as well is what enable them to actually enter is that they see in each other the face of divinity. If they do not, they will not be able to enter. So please listen carefully. Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yossi met one night in the tower of Tyr, of Tzor, and lodged there. They rejoice in each other. Rabbi Yossi said, "How glad I am to have seen the face of Shekhinah. For the whole way, I was annoyed by a certain old Saba merchant who questioned me throughout the voyage, throughout the journey." So he's first, we see that it's the first disguise. And the first disguise is that he met someone on the way to meet Rabbi Chia, and he was the company of the Saba was annoying him because he would not disclose himself to one, and he would not disclose himself to one through the language that he will understand, because he's asking him all sorts of question or quiz or sort of perplexing sort of quan. It's like he's quanning him. And Rabbi Yossi cannot relate to the questions because they are not dressed as verses from Torah. They are in a different manner of speaking. As though in the language itself, because there is not a revelation yet of the Spirit, Rabbi Yossi is not able to actually recognize and perceive Torah in it. Only when they come together and Rabbi Chia will ask him, maybe there is something hidden, some true wisdom in that grandfather. They try to lure him, and he tries to lure them into a common, one can say, a common territory in which they could start to engage. Okay. So this is basically what the language of realities is doing, or is dealing or conversing with us, and we, without a proper study or proper presence of someone to instruct us, cannot actually see Torah inside it. Okay, so this is sort of, we are entering closer. So it is to do with a state of any spirit descending to our realm, or to our perception, or to our world. It's a different language. It's a different denomination. It's a different power. It's a different mission. And there is a huge difficulty to reconcile the two. So in one of, I would say, one of the most moving parts of, there are many moving parts of this treaty of the Saba. There is a plea of Torah, of the Saba, on behalf of the Spirit, from us, to treat it fairly, to acknowledge it. Okay. So okay. I just want to say that I started from the right place. So with me for a moment. Okay. Okay. It's 1951. Okay. It speaks about the fact that the spirit will not go out from this world as other slaves, or she will not go out as we went out from Egypt. Okay, but with a different perception, with a different entitlement. Okay, so we start with 51. Moreover, these verses contain admonitions to people and much good, lofty advice is present in all the words of the Torah, which are all true and of a true way. They are known to the wise who know and walk the path of truth. When the Holy One, blessed be He, wished to create the world, He so desired it and fashioned all the spirits that will be placed in people afterwards. And they were all fashioned before Him in the very shape they will have later in people. And He saw each and everyone. Some of them will befall their ways in the world when the time comes to descend into the world. The Holy One, blessed be He, summons the spirit and say to it, go, enter a certain place, a certain body. It, the spirit, replies to him, Master of the universe, I am satisfied with the world I dwell in, and shall not go into another world where I shall be enslaved and soiled in their midst. The Holy One, blessed be He, said to it, ever since you were created, this is the reason why you were created, to be in that world, in a body, in a will. When the spirit sees that, it descends despite itself, and there enters a body, a will. The Torah that gives advice to all who realize that admonishes the people in the world, saying, see how much the Holy One, blessed be He, has compassion for you. He sold for free a good gem He had, namely the Spirit, so that you will cultivate it in this world. And if a man sells, this is the verse saying, when a man is selling, the Holy One, blessed be He, his daughter, his only daughter, which is a spirit, the Holy Spirit, to be a maid servant, to be an enslaved maid servant among you in the world. I pray you, when its time comes to depart from this world, that she shall not go out as a manservant do, not soiled with inequities, but free, refined, and cleansed, so that its master will be happy with it, praise himself with it, and be able to give it good rewards in the brightness of the Garden of Eden. This is the meaning of "and satisfy your spirit in drought, also in brightness." This is surely when a spirit emerges properly, clear and clean. Okay. So this is the call of this portion, and it moves into through how we can actually express the sentiment that we have to the spirit is through allowing the illumination of Torah to guide us. And it's also a play, one can say, or a courtship between the one that knows that Torah and the spirit of Torah is hidden and is courting her to reveal herself to her. So she's dressing, and the whole issue is to take off or to discover. But the power to discover is that which is hidden, meaning our spirit, which is hidden in our existence. From the age of 13 to being able to actually interact with it, which is the age of 20, which is not a numerical or a yearly number, but it's a state, a spiritual state. It has to do with the way we converse with our spirit in the language of Torah, in that illumination. Okay? So there is sort of a temple of that allow through its illumination a true meeting point and a true relation between our existence, the spirit, and Torah as the one who educates us, reveal to us the way to perceive, the way to estimate, the way to respect, and truly the way to love. The only daughter of the spirit that was given to us. Okay. So it's really the beginning, it's the outskirt of a very intricate explanation of many situations and states that we meet through when the soul, ghost, and spirit is being taken. Why? How one spirit can help another? What is the help that is to the spirit that is given in specific days? So it's a whole picture, it's a panoramic picture, and then We are zooming in into a few states which are important as a guideline to our journey. But the pleading of Torah from us, I think, to treat fairly our spirit, need to be remembered, because we cannot actually proceed meaningfully one step if we don't hear this plea of being fair and true with the spirit that was gifted to us.